Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I'm said host Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, we talk about the latest Xbox news for the week of April 3rd, 2025, including, despite the rumors, Xbox was notably absent from the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct this week. Ubisoft has officially formed a new entity with Tencent, and more. On this week in Xbox history, in the year 2012, 13 years ago, Kinect Star Wars was released for the Xbox 360. That's the one with the Han Solo song, right? That's the one that was mean for a long time. I don't know, dude. Kinect Star Wars. I was blacked out during those years with gaming. Okay, I was, aside from a Mario or a Halo game, I was just, I was touring the world with my band. Okay, we were on tour in Brazil and Japan and all the places. We weren't. I don't know what was happening over there. I don't claim to be an Xbox fan during that time period. I don't know what the hell. Well, that was before Phil Spencer's reign, so that was that was obviously Bill Gates. You ever notice that thing people do with Microsoft, where like Bill Gates is so intrinsically tied to the company that even though he hasn't been at the company so goddamn long, people are always like, oh yeah, Bill Gates, as if he's like the CEO of the company or something. I love that. Back when Bill Gates was creating Xbox and putting Kinect Star Wars on his. Oh my God, there's a cat here. Oh hi baby, I didn't know you were in here. You're so cute. Anyway, Bill Gates, it was his idea. Kinect Star Wars was his idea. He's huge friends with George Lucas, and they love to have dance parties at Bill's house, sometimes on Epstein's Island, which we really don't talk about for some reason. But that's Kinect Star Wars. Very, very important game to the history of Xbox. Don't think the brand would be here today without it. And it's a game. Guys, let's talk about notable game releases of the week. Speaking of complete 180s, South of Midnight comes out this week, asterisk. If you spend the extra $9 for Game Pass subscribers to get that early access, the day this podcast goes live, you could be playing South of Midnight. You know what I'm probably not doing that day is playing South of Midnight. I spent the $9. I put my money where my mouth is. I already did it. I already got the game downloaded on my Xbox Series S. I already got the $9 spent out of my bank account done, but we got my girlfriend's family's coming to visit, so I don't think I'm going to have time to do really anything this weekend, but that's okay. I just wanted to support the devs. A little bit of a correction, speaking of which. So last week I said, wow, I wonder why it's only $9. Well, it's a $9 upgrade instead of a $25, $30 upgrade because South of Midnight is not a $60, $70 game. It's retailing for $40 US. So that is why. It's because this is not a full purchase price, which I always commend these kinds of things. It's cool to explore the pricing spectrum. I think we'll get into this discussion a little bit more when we get into the Nintendo Switch stuff later on in the news. But I'm all for this stuff. If you feel like this game can do better at a $40 price point, by all means, I would have gladly paid $60, $70 for a game like this. However, I understand how most of the internet is. I understand if you say, hey, this is a 10-hour-long action-adventure, story-driven game that's very linear, and once you beat it the first time, you're probably not going to have a whole lot to go back and do again unless you just had such a fun time that you want to experience it again. I know most of the world goes, oh my God, that's disgusting. You mean there's not 3,000 hours? You mean I can't just fucking live a new life on this video game? I understand. I know how people work. They want a game that's going to do their laundry for them and keep them busy and company for the next 3 years, and then they want to wonder why the industry is imploding on itself when nobody's buying games that aren't live service. I understand. But anyway, just had to make that correction, that update there. I'm an idiot. I didn't realize this game is retailing for $40 instead of $60, $70. All right, guys. Speaking of which, I'm excited. So I assume the review embargo is tomorrow, right? We'll get reviews for South of Midnight tomorrow. Is that how that works? I'm excited to see what people think, although I stand by what I said. Mid-70s is where I think this game is going to top out at. Best case scenario. And it's just, dude, it's the Xbox curse. There's no way this game's going to be like, wow, what a freaking masterpiece this game is. Go out and play. There's just no way. From Software is going to make like the millionth fucking game where some vaguely Asian guy with a sword runs around a Dragonland slashing pots in barns and shit, and people are going to flip their goddamn crap for it. But South of Midnight's going to come out and people are going to be like, no thanks. I'm telling you, just listen. Just listen to me. I know nothing, but in this case, I'm pretty confident I know what I'm talking about. Guys, mildly amusing stories. Speaking of things that are just vaguely interesting, this is like when you stop by McDonald's to get a burger on your way to the restaurant because you know you got an hour wait before you get sat at your table. Plus, you're meeting with friends and they want to do the whole hors d'oeuvres thing. You're gonna be hungry. You know you got a big commute to get to the restaurant. There's a lot of traffic, and you said just pull over to the McDonald's. I gotta get me like a value burger before we get to the restaurant for dinner. All of our European listeners are like, I have no idea what you're talking about, Jesse. Well, goddamn it, we do it in this country. So that's what the mildly amusing stories are. It's like the pre-dinner before your dinner. Speaking of pre-dinner, PureXbox.com relays the news that in less than a week, Adamfall has been a pretty decent hit on Game Pass, reaching over 1.5 million players across all platforms, making it the most successful launch for developer Rebellion in their 32-year history. The CEO, Jason Kingsley, described the achievement and he said, speaks, quote, volumes for the creativity and dedication of the entire team here at Rebellion, while also informing players that they can look forward to future content for the game. So, cool. Yeah, I see a lot of people are pretty into this game. It's getting like solid reviews, not like incredible reviews, but good reviews. And I booted it up the other night, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I didn't really play it a whole lot, but I think I will like this game as well. It seems like a lot of people are pleasantly enjoying this game. It's kind of scratching an itch, and it's good to see. I'm just happy to see Rebellion have the success. They're a team I root for. They're kind of an underdog, and this is cool to see them branch out, try something new, and be rewarded for doing so. So I always want to commend that. Speaking of things that are doing really well, this isn't really branching out and trying something new, but it is a smash hit. Monster Hunter Wilds has set a new record for Capcom by selling 10 million copies in its first month alone. The game, which released in February, already broke the previous figure of 8 million copies sold in an opening week, and is now closing in after half of what Monster Hunter World's lifetime sales are at this point. Currently, Monster Hunter World is Capcom's best-selling game ever at around 22 million units sold, but Monster Hunter Wilds is on its way to matching that, probably besting it. I mean, it's early in the year, so by the end of this year, I could very much see that surpassing. Anyway, I mean, because you got to think games get a second win and a third win during holiday sales and during just the first time they go on sale and that kind of thing. So this game's got lots of sales left in it. This is just what it sold at full price, which is impressive. The announcement means that Monster Hunter Wilds is now the 6th best-selling Capcom game ever made, setting just behind Resident Evil Village, which I'm certain it will more than surpass. Because Resident Evil, as much as it's a very important game and a pretty successful game, especially the games industry, it is not a franchise that's like, you know, it's not like Mario, Minecraft, or anything. It's a gamer's game and a horror enthusiast game. So Monster Hunter has a little bit more of a, I guess, wide appeal to it. So anyway, moving on. Next up, I thought this was really, I don't know. I want to say it's promising, but I don't know what to make of it. So Night Dive Studios, popular, well-known developer, especially in recent years. They do a lot of ports and remasters. They said that they are willing to start remastering PlayStation 3 / Xbox 360 era games, according to the boss of the studio. So they specialize in retro polygon remake games, especially for games that are no longer playable due to the hardware they were released on, making them playable for modern audiences. So you might know them for games like the remakes of The Thing, Turok, System Shock, Doom 64, Quake 2, Blade Runner, Rise of the Triad, and Star Wars Dark Forces. But now they're talking about expanding further and trying to reach into some games specifically from the PlayStation 3 catalog, but, you know, that PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era in general, where a lot of games are kind of stranded due to specifically PlayStation 3's really obtuse hardware limitations, and, you know, just the fact that there are games from that generation on both platforms that are just no longer accessible. So head of the teams, Larry Cooperman, said, "We stand ready. When we were asked who would handle each game given how many studios from that era have closed down, he then noted that there were numerous aspects to take into account. He said, I would begin by asking a couple questions. Was it Xbox 360 exclusive, or was it a PC? Was there a PC version too? Because that also changes our willingness to do it. The little perspective that's available. Do we have source code? If so, what's the quality of the source code? How about the assets? Those are the kinds of considerations that we have to have there. That being said, there's some really good games that came out in that era that shouldn't be lost. But to the point though, with a game like Haze, let's say hypothetically that we have access to that, and that was our big title for 2028, right? We would go to the original designers and we would say, it didn't do as well as you had hoped. I'm sure you had a lot of time to ruminate and think about what you would have done differently. We've had these discussions with original developers on some of the games we've worked on, and we've given them the opportunity to come back and say, this is what I would have done differently. In the case of System Shock 2 Remastered, and a lot of the other games we've been working on, as soon as you bring them over import them to newer hardware, some of the problems start to clear themselves up, like frame rate, refresh, texture resolution, streaming load times, etc. So, and they go on to talk about games that are stranded on PS3 due to its weird hardware with the cell processing, and games that were, on Xbox but aren't backwards compatible, and games that were released on PC but like Windows Live, whatever PC kind of shit, and then it's just not compatible, or you don't find it on Steam, and things like that. And they use games like Haze as an example. I don't know if anyone remembers Haze, but Haze is a game I always remember just because its box art to me for some reason is so weirdly memorable. The freaking like future soldier guy with the yellow helmet, but it's cracked and you see his eye peeking out. And I know it's a Ubisoft published game. I always forget it was developed by Free Radical, the guys that would turn into like Crytek and make the freaking the games of the, what am I trying to say? What's the game? The Time Splitter guys that eventually made, what am I trying to say? Crisis. Why would I blank on Crisis? It's such a well-known game. Anyway, but yeah, so it's the team that would eventually become Crytek that would make Crisis, but they made it as Free Radical, and it was published by Ubisoft. And did it come to Xbox? That was a PlayStation 3 exclusive, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was only on PS3, and that game got meh reviews. But it's the perfect example of a game where it's like no one has access to that game anymore. PlayStation 3 handled backwards compatibility so poorly, and there are games on Xbox 360 that are lost, to time. And it would just be nice to have a team that's willing to step up and start to show a little preservation love to that era, which I really admire, because there's just so much love and respect for like the retro era, like the bit era, like the NES, the SNES, these kinds of consoles. And while there's still plenty of work to do from that time period of games, I really feel like we haven't really hit or tapped into the love and nostalgia, or at least yet, from the Xbox 360 early HD era. And that's just such a special generation for me, and I know for all Xbox fans it really is, because the Xbox 360 was the only time that Xbox was kind of not doing poorly. So, but just aside from that, just it's a special time in video game history for me. I feel like it's the last time where video games were truly like fully creative without the limitation of like, market research and assigning a correct IP that will give it the marketability required to make it successful and things like that. I feel like there's a lot of old world sensibility to like what kind of games could get greenlit, but with a very seasoned and educated kind of perspective on how to make a proper game that's going to be relatively good. Like PS2, GameCube, Xbox era had a lot of like cool ideas, but the game was really rough around the edges. I feel like Xbox 360, PS3 had a lot of games that were like unashamed to just be video games. They weren't like groundbreaking, but they were really fun and they were really polished and they were well executed because mistakes had been learned from the previous generations of 3D gaming. But we weren't quite at the modern era of gaming where it's like, whoa, we can't make a game about a freaking anthropomorphic pizza that goes on an adventure and shoots people with a machete because machetes have bullets now, because that won't sell well. Instead, what we got to do is make it a Marvel game, or we got to make it a Star Wars game, or we got to make it a Avatar game, because that worked out so well. It's like it's just kind of cool to think that generation just had so much creativity and so much originality and so much fun behind it. There's so much spirit behind it, but a lot of that stuff is starting to get lost to time or hard to re-experience on modern platforms. And I just love the idea of someone giving that generation the attention and respect that it deserves. So, dude, please, Night Dive, by all means, start getting in contact with some of these developers. It gets a little weird because a lot of these franchises still have like weird ownership rights with big publishers. I mean, like, can we get Army of Two back? I love Army of Two. Good luck talking to EA about that. Anyway, so I just wanted to throw that out there. And then, speaking of big games, let's talk about Grand Theft Auto 6 because we have to bring it up every week. Take-Two Interactive CEO Strauss Zelnick has been asked why Grand Theft Auto 6 still doesn't have a release date despite being planned for a fall release. Speaking of Bloomberg in a newly published interview, Zelnick said that Rockstar Games' parent company wanted to maintain the anticipation for GTA 6 while claiming that there was a greater than for that the anticipation was greater than the anticipation for any game release in history. He says the anticipation for that title may be the greatest anticipation I've ever seen for an entertainment property, and I've been around the block a few times. I've seen it in every entertainment business there is, and we want to maintain that anticipation and that excitement. We do have competitors who will describe their release schedule for years in advance, and we found that that the better thing to do is to provide marketing material relatively close to the release window in order to create the excitement on the one hand and balance the excitement with unmet anticipation. We don't always get it exactly right, but that's what we're trying to do. So basically what he's saying is they're going to do it the Grand Theft Auto way, and they're going to basically say, all right, here's a release date and a new trailer and some new assets to pour over. The game will be out in 2-3 months or something like that. So my guess is Grand Theft Auto 6 is probably gunning for like a September to November release, somewhere in that window, somewhere in those like 2 to 3 months. And then we're going to get an announcement date probably sometime mid to late summer. That is my guess for Grand Theft Auto 6. I know people are freaking out over it, but it's like, listen, man, I believe the game is coming. I'm not worried about it. In the meantime, just stay focused on the 4,000 games Xbox is putting on PlayStation every week, or the 4,000 games Xbox is putting on Xbox every week, or the Nintendo Switch 2 that's just around the corner. Like, there's plenty of other things to focus on. Listen, Grand Theft Auto 6 it's not going to call you baby and bring you home Wendy's, okay? So you don't gotta get that excited about it. I get that Grand Theft Auto is the game that it's the gamer's game. It's the game that people love because you can slap a hooker and tell her to stand down if she tries to call the cops. But the thing that's so nice about everything else, other than Grand Theft Auto, of course, is that it's better. Is that you guys overreact? Is that Grand Theft Auto is not that good? No, I don't know. I have a hard time because, like, on the one hand, I get the hype. I get why people love Grand Theft Auto. I like Grand Theft Auto. I'm excited to play Grand Theft Auto 6. I know I'll enjoy it. But on the other hand, I'm like, there are times where I'm just like, why is this the game? Why is this the IP? I get it. I do get the appeal, but at the same time, I'm like, why is this got to be the game that like everyone in the world flips out about? But I do get it. I don't get it, but I get it. Anyway. You'll get it when you get it. Please calm down. Enjoy some other games in the meantime, please. Monster Hunter Wilds has only sold a meager 10 million copies. Can you please give them some attention that they so desperately deserve? Speaking of people who need attention, and that sounds actually really mean, because we're talking about people striking for better working conditions and better pay. So I don't mean to speak down on that. I respect that. But from Windows Central here, ZeniMax Workers United, the union representing hundreds of ZeniMax Media Quality Assurance or QA testers on Bethesda Softworks games, voted to authorize a strike against negotiations with Microsoft. Over 94% of the union members voted to authorize a call for a strike, per a press release shared earlier in the week. The union is continuing to bargain with Microsoft for better pay and remote work, as well as an end to lack of notifications around the outsourced work that goes around the union. This comes as the union members previously walled off the job for a day in protest of Microsoft not recognizing the demand for remote work options. So Microsoft wants some hybrid 3-day week model. And people are basically complaining. It's like, listen, you don't pay us enough, and then we got to commute to these cities that are astronomical to live in, that we can't afford to live in based on what you pay us. It's like, how are we gonna be in cities like, I don't know, where are Bethesda teams? Baltimore. They're in Bethesda, Maryland. But anyway, these teams that are in major cities around the globe, and these QA testers are like, well, this is ridiculous. You guys don't pay us well enough, and then we got to come into the office, and they're just saying you got to take care of us in a way that where the compensation matches, the work-life conditions and everything. And so an update came about after this news broke, and a Microsoft spokesperson provided a statement regarding the ongoing negotiations, saying our quality assurance team is an integral part to our business, blah, 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 PR. We respect the team's right to express their viewpoints and deeply committed to reaching an equitable resolution that acknowledges the team's contributions. There's been such a substantial progress over the course of the negotiations, reaching tentative agreements on a majority of topics at the table. We have presented a package proposal that we believe is fair. If accepted, it would result in immediate compensation increases, even more robust benefits, and in alignment with the company's hybrid model of 3 days in the office. We look forward to continuing the progress during negotiations. So we will keep tabs on this story as it develops, but always in favor for people fighting for better pay, better working conditions. Listen, I don't care. I don't believe any company pays fair. So especially if you're like, the majority of the workforce, it's like, yeah, you're probably not getting paid what you're worth. So stick it to Microsoft. They can go fucking suck an egg after making $1 trillion off AI and cloud storage or whatever the fuck they do. All right, so we'll keep tabs on that. Got nothing really to add to it just because I'm dumb and I don't know anything about unions or reunions or family reunions or the union that fought the Confederacy during the Civil War. I don't know anything. Union Jack, of course, if you're British, or Kangaroo Jack if you're a Zillennial. So there's a lot of different unions that we can get into the discussion of. But guys, that's not what I want to do, because I'm done with that McDonald's hamburger and I'm on my way to the restaurant, and now I'm starting to wonder, oh shit, did I really need to get fries with that? Because now I'm kind of full and we're on our way to a restaurant and I don't really want to eat if I'm full. I really don't want to justify spending $80 a person on dinner if I'm full from the fucking $7 McDonald's, I just had. So I understand what you're going through, but we got to keep going. There's news to talk about. What do you want me to say? All right, guys, we'll get into that news. I want to talk about the Nintendo Direct especially, but before I can talk about the news, before I can tell you all about the Nintendo Direct especially, I got to tell you about the games I've been playing this week. I've been playing 2 games that start with an A, and they're both bad letter A. But before I can tell you about what I've been playing, I got to tell you about what it is I've been eating, and baby, they are back. Nope, not baby back ribs from Chili's, you idiot. What made you think that? I'm talking about the Taco Bell Street Chalupas again. They're back again. So these are different. They changed them, I think. I still haven't done the cursory search of the internet to confirm that they're different, but I think they're different. Last year, these things came out, right? These Cantina Chicken Chalupa Street Taco things, whatever the fuck they are. They're called Street Chalupas, and it comes with 2 in a pack. They're these small little like street taco sized things, but they're in these cheesy chalupa shells, and they have like, you can get them a steak or chicken. Of course, you gotta get them a steak. And they come with like onions and cilantro and cheese and a cream sauce. And then the outside is a fluffy, fried, delicious chalupa shell with toasted cheese on the outside. And they're amazing. I had them last year when they came out, and they were like, honestly, a top 5 greatest Taco Bell food item of all time kind of food. They were so fucking good. I probably had them like a dozen times in the month or 2 that they were available. And then when I saw that they came back this past week, for the first time in a year, I said, oh, I got to have those again. So I ordered them, and they were really, really good. But I think they're different. I think the toppings are something's different about them. I can't quite put my finger on it. I need to look up what they were last year and compare and see if the fillings are different or anything about it. But I feel like they are like 10% worse this year than they were last year, but 10% worse on one of the best Taco Bell items ever made is still like one of the best Taco Bell items ever made. So I'm really happy that they're back. They are delicious. I'm going to try them again, maybe at a different Taco Bell. Maybe they were just made differently. I don't fucking know. But I am going to try them again, and I got to look up what's different about them from when they did them last year. But I wish this was a permanent menu item, because I would order these things all the time. They're so good. I highly recommend. And I think last year they came with like avocado crema or something. They came with some kind of sauce to go with it, and this year they don't. They don't come with anything. There's a sauce on them already, but there's no sauce to dip them in, which is fine. Oh, no. This year there is a sauce, right? It comes with a queso, like a cheese sauce. I don't fucking remember. My brain's fried. I don't know. But they're good. They're still good. Still highly recommend them. If you didn't try them last year, try them now. You won't know what you're missing, and you'll just think they're fucking amazing, because they are. With or without whatever they did differently last year, they're still amazing on their own. So the Taco Bell Street Chalupas are back, and I couldn't be happier about it. Made me go out and really eat Taco Bell for the first time in quite a while, and it was worth every calorie, to be quite honest. But that's it for what I've been eating. I'm really more excited to tell you about what it is I've been playing, because I finally wrapped Avowed. Finally. Man, it's kind of weird. Avowed is one of those games. I feel this way about a couple of franchises. In fact, I remember the first time I ever felt this way was as a child, playing through the Ratchet and Clank games, where I'm like, I love this game, but I don't feel motivated to play it. But if I force myself to play it, I get sucked into it, and then I can't stop playing it. And I felt that way. The first time I ever felt that way was Ratchet and Clank Going Commando, and I've been cognizant of that ever since I was a child. That's like, how can it be that there are some games where it's like, you start the game, it's amazing, then you stop playing for a little while and you have no motivation to play it, and then you kind of feel guilty for not playing it, so then you force yourself to play it, and then you get sucked right back in and you can't stop playing it again. But Avowed is very much one of those games for me where I really had to pry myself away from my Daredevil Netflix binging session and force myself to finish up Avowed, because I wanted to have it wrapped up before South of Midnight came around. And this weekend I spent, a decent amount of time wrapping up Avowed, and getting myself to start playing was a chore. But the second I made it like 30 minutes into a play session, I was hooked. I was like, God, this game is so fun. I really, really enjoy this game. And I gotta say, with Avowed, now that I've wrapped it up, I got a couple things to say about it. But on the whole, if I'm just being completely honest, I think I am slightly let down by Avowed. It is not exactly what I wanted, and I'm not 100% like, oh yeah, this game delivered, because my expectations were too high of it. That's not usually a thing I struggle with. I'm not usually that kind of person that sets unrealistic expectations and gets let down. I usually have pretty average expectations of everything, and my barometer is usually, if I had a good time, then I'm not let down at all. But I feel like this game, I was kind of expecting it to be a smaller scale Skyrim that was going to resonate with me very similarly, and it just didn't. Like, I really enjoyed this game. I really had a great time with it, but I feel like Avowed is a game I'm not going to think about all that much moving forward. It's a game I'm going to be glad I played, put it under my completion list, but I'm going to move on to the next game and probably find something. Like, I got South of Midnight coming up. I still got to get to Spider-Man 2 now that's on PC. And I'm thinking that between those games and Doom, the Dark Ages and stuff, I feel like Avowed's going to get probably a little buried in my mind in terms of like great games that I played this year. And I don't mean that as a disservice, because I genuinely love Avowed. In fact, I will say the third act of Avowed is by far the strongest part. And this game starts off pretty decent and stays pretty good throughout, but it's definitely a game that has a much stronger second half than first half, which is great if you're someone who sticks through it, because it means the game finishes in a really good position. But the thing about this game is the gameplay just keeps getting better and better, and the dungeon crawling / mission, this game actually kind of reminds me a lot of Destiny. I don't know if a lot of people have made this connection, but honestly, towards the latter half of the game, there's a lot of like dungeons and stuff you go through, and those parts of the game feel very much like not raids, but like strike missions from Destiny, or like campaign missions from Destiny. And I really, really enjoy the level design, the more linear narrative structure of this game, and just the really addicting and fun combat loop of just really satisfying melee combat and whipping around spells with your wand and taking down enemies and collecting higher gear loot and then equipping better items and upgrading the items you have and all that stuff. And I just found this game to be so much fun to play. Like, I cannot stress enough, Avowed is such a fun time. If you've ever played a game like Skyrim or a Western style RPG in general and thought, wow, these games are so engrossing because the world building is amazing, the writing is amazing, the character development is amazing, the world is pretty and fun to be in and fun to explore, but goddamn is that combat basic as fuck. Avowed is the most opposite game of that type of game that you've ever experienced, because Avowed is like, this story is totally fine. It's not bad by any means, but it's really not like amazing. And these characters are like, meh. I really don't like any of the characters in this game. I don't hate the characters in this game. I just don't love any of the characters in this game. And I feel like the dialogue is like not that interesting. And I feel like sometimes dialogue lasts too long and like characters are just repeating themselves, or like some other companion is kind of saying the same thing the previous companion just said. And you're just wasting my time and filling the space. And sometimes I'm just like, okay, I really don't care. But then when you're not talking to people and you're not focusing on the story and you're just going through the linear quests and enjoying the game, it's like, damn, this game is so fun to play. It feels so good. And it's just a very unique game in that way, because it's a game that is part of a genre that is all about exploration, dialogue trees, great writing and performances, or no, maybe not performances, but great writing and captivating storytelling. And I feel like this game really doesn't have any of that. And I won't say it's bad, but I will say the narrative, the writing, everything, the performances are serviceable. It is the ultimate way to define how this game presents its narrative and its characters and its dialogue. It is all entirely serviceable. None of it is phenomenal. There's so much in-world lore you have to memorize to understand what the fuck they're talking about. This Steel Garrode and this Avalonian and all this bullshit. They're talking about all this crap. And I'm like, I don't care. Just let me whip around my Harry Potter stick and slash some bad guys with the sword a little bit more, because that is fun. That is so fun. And I really admire and appreciate the art style of this game. And one of the things this game does that made me so fucking upset because of how I feel like wasted it was, is that in the first half of this game, and in fact, I'd say for like 60 to 70% of this game, I feel like so often you're fighting like these creatures of the forest that are tarnished with this curse that you're trying to eradicate. And then only in like the final third act, the game is like, oh yeah, in addition to fighting bears and spiders and goblins and shit, here are skeletons and monsters and creatures and fun to fight shit. And all of a sudden it just starts throwing really good enemies at you towards the end of the game. I'm like, well, these guys are so much more fun to fight. This is such a more badass environment I'm fighting in, such a more badass environment I'm questing in, so much better combat and questing. It's like, where was all this shit the first half of the game? Because the first half of the game wasn't bad, but it just wasn't as remarkable. So I feel like this game had, I don't know what it is. I know that there is a lot of criticism of this game because like you can't hit NPCs and pickpocket and do all these things you can do in other games like this. And apparently the game originally was supposed to be a 4-player co-op game that was very different from this game. And then they kind of, in a couple of years ago, soft rebooted it internally and made it more of a traditional Outer Worlds, Fallout, Elder Scrolls style game. And people say that you can feel a lot of the remnants of what the game was originally going to be, and it kind of hinders its ability to be a great single player RPG as a result of that. And I don't know that I can really feel those decisions or those ramifications. I don't feel like I have those criticisms of this game. I feel like my criticisms are just that this game has a lot to show at the end of the game, and I wish it showed it throughout the entirety of the game, not just towards the end. And I wish this game just had, I don't know, just tighter writing. I wish the characters were a little more better written, a little more interesting, that they were less verbose, because I feel like not only are they talking a lot, but they're just kind of saying nothing half the time. And I just overall, again, the story was like engaging enough to where I was following the story from start to finish well enough that I understood at least 80% of what was going on. But by the end of the game, I was like, I don't feel like it's not that great of a story. Like, I don't know. I know people rag on like a lot of these kinds of games for not having great stories. Like, oh, Fallout 4, it's just about finding your son. And it's like, oh, well, Skyrim's not all that great either. But, a lot of people are like, it's about the journeys you have exploring the world and the side quests and things like that. But I don't know. Like, I guess I'm still high on Starfield, which I thought had a really awesome primary quest line. I thought the main quest line in Starfield was so good. And I know games like Cyberpunk get praised, for a similar thing, and Witcher 3 and stuff like that. So excuse me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but I guess I just expect better storytelling, more engaging core narratives for games like this. And I just feel like this game didn't really have it. In fact, the game this reminded me of the most was, and this will be really apt, is Outer Worlds, because I remember having a similar feeling when I played Outer Worlds, which is like, this game's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it, but it's a game I'm going to finish and then just kind of move on with my life and not think too much about. And I kind of feel that way about Avowed. It was a really good time. Super glad I played it. Really only put like 15 hours into it. I feel like I could go back and do some more. I did about half the side quests I feel like the game had to offer. Maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like I was trying to, especially towards like the early and middle parts of the game, I was trying to take on pretty much anything side quest related that I came across. But towards the end of the game, I just started beelining it for the main quest and really just enjoyed really just enjoyed that latter half of the game a lot. So overall, I mean, to me, Avowed is like a solid B minus of a game, and that's great. You know, it's an excellent value for Game Pass. It's a really great way to spend 3 weekends, and it's really, really special combat that I hope Obsidian takes and says we need to continue to refine this and continue to implement this in future games, because I have never played a game like this with combat that was nearly this good. So I really think they deserve huge props for that. So overall, Avowed, pretty fun game. Cool, like, final boss moments, like those last couple of notable enemy encounters towards the end of the game. Really great quests towards the end of the game. Really great enemy variety and enemy choice towards the end of the game. Just great combat from start to finish. Really fun gameplay loop. But just overall, didn't like really speak to me in a lasting way in terms of like the narrative it had to tell and things like that. So that's kind of my overall wrap on Avowed. I don't think I'll come back to it, honestly, but if gun to my head, if I had to replay this game, I think I would have a good time. It's just, there's just so many things to play. I think I'm going to move on. So that was liked it a lot. Didn't like adore it kind of take from Avowed. But great game overall, and I highly recommend, if you're a Game Pass subscriber and even remotely a fan of these kinds of games, definitely worth giving it a try. I think it's a must play if you're someone who primarily relies on Game Pass for new games to play. Speaking of Game Pass and new games to play, I then downloaded and dipped into Atomfall for like 20-30 minutes. And quickly realized I think I'm going to like this game a little bit more than I thought I would. I thought this was a game I'd put like 1 to 2 hours in and then bounce. But I quickly realized I was like, this is a game I might play a decent amount of, or I might even see all the way through the end. I don't know. Because the intro grabbed me enough that I was like, I'm kind of in on this. Who knows what it unfolds into, but I kind of feel like I really liked what I was seeing and I really want to get into that game. So I stopped myself because I saw that most playthroughs are taking like 20 to 30 hours. I was like, I don't have time for this now. South of Midnight has to come first. So I'm going to play South of Midnight, and then I'm going to come back and play Atomfall because I have a hunch that I'm really going to like Atomfall. So that's going to be put in a different place on the rotation. That's okay. But from when I initially picked up and played, I was like, okay, I like this. It spares no expense. It gets right into the action, does a brief little overview, and it says, here you go, let's start playing. And I like that the game is like, balance the game how you want. Do you want it to be hard combat, easy survival, or hard survival, easy combat? Or like, how do you want to balance the game? And I wanted like medium combat, easy survival. But that wasn't an option. The closest thing I could get would be like hard combat, easy survival. And I said, well, fuck me. I guess I'm just going to play on like the story baby mode because I don't want it to be that grueling. I want it to be more of an experience and less of like a challenge. So I put it on baby fuck you mode, which is easy survival and easy combat. But that's okay. That's okay. I still don't really know to the extent of what this game's going to feel like in terms of it being a survival game. So I feel like, I don't know, is it like Stalker? Is it like Fallout? What am I in for? But I'm excited to play it and to get more into it. I think the world is immediately interesting. I really dig the game's like late Xbox 360, early Xbox One kind of graphical fidelity. There's something about it that I find really charming, actually. I know some people are ragging on that, but to me, like, I think graphics got good enough like 15, 20 years ago, so I don't give a shit. I see the art style and the graphics, and there's something about it that just feels like, okay, this is a game that's not gonna, blow through the safety and the job security of its entire staff to make you be able to see the sweat on the fucking forehead of this character you'll never pay attention to in the corner of an open world map, So to me, I just aesthetically, I got a good feel. I feel off of hitting the start button and dicking around for 20 minutes, getting out of the little tutorialized zone where you patch up the guy, and then getting into the world and starting to explore, and starting to whack things around and traverse. And I was like, okay, I want to see this game. Let me put it on pause. I'm gonna go do South of Midnight first. So that's really it for what I've been playing. Nothing to say about Atomfall just yet, but I have a suspicion I'm really gonna like this game. So happy to get back to it once I'm done with South of Midnight. You guys, that's it for all of our non-main news segment stuff. Let's take a quick water break, come back, and talk about this Nintendo Switch Direct, Ubisoft, all these things going on in the world. So see you on the other side. All right, guys, let's jump into the news. So, very slow news week for Xbox alone this week, and that's because I think everyone wanted to get out of the way of the Nintendo Switch 2 stuff. I mean, that's obviously the big thing happening in gaming. So, PlayStation, Xbox, everyone was very quiet this week. So, I think the big thing, so let's attack this two ways. I want to start with the Nintendo Direct. One, because there was a large expectation that Xbox was going to be a big part of this event. And two, because I'm just selfish and it's the thing in video gaming that I'm excited about right now and I want to talk about it. So fuck it, we're going to talk about it, even if it's not necessarily Xbox related. But let's try to attack this from an Xbox angle first and foremost, and then we'll get a little off topic and just generally talk about it, and then we'll move on to more Xbox centric things after this, I promise. Okay, so a lot of people did expect that this event was going to be very Xbox-centric, that this is going to be the event where Xbox is going to announce the Oblivion remake, they're going to announce it for Switch 2, and then it's going to be, of course, also released on Xbox and PlayStation and all that. But that was a huge expectation. People were also saying maybe this is where we get that Gears of War collection, Marcus Phoenix collection or something. Maybe this is where Halo the Master Chief migrates for the first time off of Xbox onto PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch 2. And there was a lot of speculation about where this was going to go. But the event happened today, as of the time I'm recording this, it was today. And it came and went, and Xbox was nowhere to be seen. In fact, there were no oh my God, what the fuck, this team is working with Nintendo kind of announcements, aside from, things, I guess the biggest surprise was From Software is making a new game exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2. And the surprise there not being, obviously it's a surprise that From Software is making a Switch game, but not surprising to know that From Software would work with Nintendo, two Japanese companies. So there wasn't any oh my God, Sega's going to make a fucking movie about Rocky and Bullwinkle, a fucking video game for Rocky and Bullwinkle. Well, I can't say that. Only for Nintendo Switch 2 or something like that. There wasn't anything crazy like that necessarily. And Xbox was nowhere to be found. And here's my interpretation of that. I kind of felt this way immediately when the rumor started swirling that Xbox was going to be at this event, but then I allowed myself to really buy into everyone else's expectations, and I kind of was like, you know what? Yeah, it makes sense. I guess Xbox really will be a huge part of this Nintendo Direct Switch 2 reveal. But I think what happened was, listen, if it were up to Xbox, I think they would have been all over this event. I think they would have been like, fuck yeah, let's show Call of Duty, let's show Halo, let's show Gears of War, let's show Oblivion, let's do it all. Fucking Tony Hawk. In fact, Tony Hawk was the only Xbox thing shown, and that's an Activision game, But I think what happened was Nintendo was like, no. This is our event. This is our coming out party for the Nintendo Switch 2. We want to make it about us, about our games, about our close partners we're working with, about our new hardware. If we make this the Halo's coming to Nintendo presentation, then we take some of the emphasis off of our brand new console and off of our brand new games that we're announcing, and we start to make the narrative a little muddied with this conversation of wow, Xbox is coming to Nintendo finally. Oh my God, it's happening. It's real, So I feel like this is a way for Nintendo to control the messaging and say, no, this is our event about our games and our platform, and we'll talk about Xbox and such and so forth later on down the road. So that's kind of how I interpreted the lack of Xbox at this event. I'm sure Xbox would have loved to have been here if that were the case, if that were doable. Now, could we see Nintendo Switch announcements at Xbox's Summer Showcase in June? Yeah, absolutely. Could we see Xbox have some kind of Nintendo Direct style event, or Nintendo do some Nintendo's cross Xbox Direct style event? That'd be fucking cool. In anticipation of the Switch 2 coming out, or maybe shortly after it comes out. Yeah, that's possible. But I think for now it was just about Nintendo having their platform and their moment to talk about themselves and what they're doing, and along with some usual suspect partners rather than something mind-blowing like Xbox. So that is my kind of 2 cents on that. But let's talk about the event on the whole. Overall, I gotta be honest, I thought everyone was super high on it for a second, but of course, the internet has to be the internet, and now everyone's bitching. I thought the event was great. I thought it was a fantastic Nintendo Direct. I think the freaking Switch 2 looks great. I think the games they showed look great. Mario Kart World looks phenomenal. Looks like an amazing way to evolve the Mario Kart formula, which I personally thought started to get a little stale with Mario Kart 8. As much as I like Mario Kart 8 and I like the Mario Kart franchise, I felt like that game way overstayed its welcome. As someone who was a big Nintendo fan for a very long time and played Mario Kart 8 since the day it came out on the Wii U back in 2014, I felt like Mario Kart 8 way overstayed its welcome by being the only Mario Kart really around for the past 12 goddamn years. So to me, I see Mario Kart World and I see the innovation they got, the open world stuff, all the new crap they're doing, and I think that game looks freaking awesome. And then the move to pack it in as a bundle game if you get the $50 more expensive version of the Switch 2, very, very bold move, because I mean Mario Kart is a game that will sell itself no fucking problem. People will gladly pay for that game. It's one of the best selling video game franchises of all time. So this is an even better way to help bolster. It's like I feel like the decision to bundle Mario Kart World in with the Switch 2 or have that option be available is more of Nintendo's way to help bolster sales of Switch 2 rather than it is a way to help bolster sales of Mario Kart, because Mario Kart doesn't need new hardware to sell units. But new hardware needs games like Mario Kart in order to sell. Maybe that's more obvious than I'm making it sound, but that's how I read that. But anyway, Mario Kart looks great. Let's talk about the really important one. Donkey Kong Bonanza or whatever the fuck it's called, that game looks awesome. A lot of people were like, oh, we're going to get a new 3D Mario reveal. I was very excited for that. I was very hopeful for that. This is literally the next best thing, honestly. If we're not going to get a new 3D Mario game, I'll take this Donkey Kong Bonanza shit all day long. This game looks so fucking good. It looks so goofy. It looks so funny. You guys know me. I love 3D platformers more than anything. These are my favorite kinds of games. And this mechanic where you're just fucking smashing through everything, where it's like Battlefield's level destruction meets Mario Bros platforming, it's just ridiculous, and I love it. Just smashing through floors and walls and ceilings and everything in between. This game looks ridiculous and outlandish and fun, and I don't really understand the art style they're going for with Donkey Kong, but I also don't give a shit. I will gladly pay $70 to experience this game. Looks phenomenal. Otherwise, I think the platform looks, it's cool. It's exciting. Listen, a new generation of video game hardware is always going to be exciting. I'm sorry. Whether it's PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, I'm just going to get hyped about new shit happening in video games. And, Nintendo's one of the big three. So if they're going to put out a new generation of hardware, it's going to draw attention and get me excited over that, So I don't know. It's weird for me to say, because the Nintendo Switch was the final, well, not the final. It was finally the thing to help remove me from my lifelong Nintendo obsession craze and get me to see that, like, I've kind of outgrown Nintendo. I've kind of had my fill for the most part. And, when the Nintendo Switch first came out, I would say for the first year or so of that device's existence, I was pretty into it, especially the first 6-10 months of the Switch. I love that thing. I played that thing all day, every day. I was really into it. I stayed up till midnight and waited at a Best Buy to get my hands on it the moment it came out. I was all up the ass of the Nintendo Switch at first, but the Switch just kind of let me down over time. I realized it was kind of like the let's port all those Wii U games that didn't sell over this machine kind of thing. And so for a while there, I was like, okay, this is like kind of a machine that's not meant for me as someone who supported the Wii U. And then a lot of the games they were coming out with, I was like, I feel like they're touching on every franchise, but like a lot of these entries just aren't doing it for me. And then I just kind of realized, like, I feel like I kind of grown out of Nintendo. I played Breath of the Wild when it came out. I liked it. I thought it was incredibly overrated, but also a very good game. I really enjoyed that game. But it just, I don't know, it kind of struck me. I started to get a little bit of an ick for Nintendo, where I was like, you know what? I think I've grown out of Nintendo to the point where I just can't stand Nintendo's shtick anymore, where it's like, here's the same fucking shit, $70 please, and everyone buys it and loves it. And then Xbox is like, here's another Halo game, and everyone's like, is that all you're ever going to do, just make Halo? It's like, well, yeah, it's great, isn't it? But anyway, no, I mean, Nintendo makes great games. They always have. They always will. They're a very, very, very important company, possibly the most important company in the world of video games. And everyone has something that they owe to Nintendo if they consider themselves a fan of gaming. And I love Nintendo. They were my childhood. I'll always have a soft spot for them. So I feel like Switch 2, despite being so similar to Switch 1, does feel kind of like a wiping the slate clean, fresh start. And there's something about that it's got me a little excited. I feel a little optimistic. I'm like, maybe this could be like a good jumping back on point for me with Nintendo. I'd like for that to be the case. I would like for Nintendo to be, a bigger part of my life again. Maybe not as much as it used to be when I was younger, but a part of my life again. I mean, my Switch is a fucking professional dust collecting machine. That thing does nothing. But that's because I don't really want to play my 800th hour of Cars 3 Driven to Win, the only game worth a damn on that platform. But I think Switch 2 looks great. It's exciting to see. You can tell all these publishers are like, finally, this fucking platform can handle some games. We're getting Borderlands and all this shit on there, and they're like, let's do it. Elden Ring's on the Switch now. So I think a lot of publishers and developers are really excited to finally have a more powerful Switch to play around with. And I think people are going to love this device. Another thing I want to shout out, the chat feature that this console has, where it's like the little C button and you press it, and then it's like proximity room chat, whatever feature. I gotta say, shout out to this feature, because even though it's absolutely stupid, a lot of people are going to rag on it, and most kids are just going to go to Discord anyway, because that's the world we live in. I gotta say, I absolutely adore this feature, because it's just the evolution of WeChat, or WeSpeak. WeSpeak was the name of the accessory. For those who don't remember, during the Nintendo Wii era, and I was such a fucking huge Wii fan, there was this accessory you could get called WeSpeak. It was this little, like, half circle looking accessory, and you would tape it onto the sensor bar, the little sensor bar that you would use to track your Wiimote, and it was a little speaker. And the idea was that with WeSpeak, you could do online voice chat on Nintendo games, but the Wii was so fucking rudimentary and shitty with its online functionality that it was really marketed and designed around Animal Crossing City Folk, and then pretty much wasn't used in like any other game except for like Conduit 2 or something like that. It was really seldom used, but I loved WeSpeak. I used to play Animal Crossing with my buddy Austin growing up, and we'd fucking have our WeSpeak sitting in and just chat with each other after a long day of school, and go over to each other's villages and pick fruits off of trees and shit like that. And I have a lot of fuzzy memories of that stuff, because I remember so badly during that generation. I was a kid. I was in like middle school and then high school during the Wii Xbox 360 era. And I remember it was such an interesting era, because there was the part of me that was like holding on to my childhood, and I was like, yes, I love Nintendo. I love the Wii. I want to see the Wii have more gritty and mature games. I want the Wii to have better online functionality. But then the other half of me was like, fuck Nintendo. I love my Xbox 360. I'm good with Halo and Mercenaries and Left 4 Dead, and I don't need this shit. And it was just like such this like back and forth always, with hoping the Wii would become a little more badass and mature, and then like just kind of giving up on it at times and being like, I'm just gonna go play fucking Call of Duty and Guitar Hero. But WeSpeak was one of those things where I was like, yeah, we got the online functionality. And then you might remember the Wii late in its life cycle started doing downloadable content, and you would always know a game that had DLC because it had a red online logo instead of a blue online logo for when it on the box where it says Wi-Fi enabled. It's weird. So to me, it's like, this is just a throwback. It's so Nintendo. Nintendo always has these just really Nintendo approaches to really basic things that everyone else does the exact same way. And this is one of those things. I doubt it will take off. They also have a little camera accessory you can buy, which looks like it's implemented in really interesting ways in some of their games. But again, I'm fully expecting none of this shit to take off. People are just going to have goddamn Discord chats going on. But I like the idea. I like to think that kids today will have a lot of value, will find a lot of value and appreciate using this new, spatial audio fucking in-room chat feature that the console has. Also, I think it's cool that it just has noise cancellation features, so it doesn't pick up the sound of the TV while you're chatting in the room with your buddy. So anyway, I think the console looks cool. I'm interested in it. I'm excited to see if it feels any better in the hands. The original Switch kind of feels like shit. So I'm hoping that it feels a lot more refined and nice and premium. $450. I expected a kind of a price tag on this thing. I feel like $450 is $50 more than I thought it'd be. Really, I thought it was going to be $399 and $450 for the Mario Kart bundle, but it's $450 for the standard and $500 for the Mario Kart bundle. Pretty hefty price tag. Listen, I understand it's bad out there. Nintendo needs to make a profit on these things. That's their business model. They need to make money on their hardware. But man, $450 for a device that ultimately is going to be on every kid's wish list for Christmas and birthdays. It's a steep asking price, and then you got to get a game with that. You got to get a game with that. So you're looking really at that $500 Mario Kart bundle, especially because you're getting Mario Kart for $30 off if you do it that way. Because Mario Kart is, this is the other big thing. Mario Kart, and this does pertain to Xbox. Mario Kart is the first game to really finally bust down and say, fuck this. Fuck this whole every game has to be the same price, one size fits all approach. We're doing $80 for Mario Kart World. And I loved watching the internet have a meltdown over this because people are like, oh my God, who's going to buy a game for $80? It's like, newsflash. Millions and millions of people are going to buy Mario Kart World for $80. You can bet your fucking ass on that. So that's why it costs $80, is because this is one of the few games out there like Grand Theft Auto 6 where the publisher behind it, in this case Nintendo, is damn well confident that millions and millions and millions of people will buy this game at $80 as opposed to the standard $70. So you can bet your ass on that. I don't know, man. This doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I kind of encourage it. Now, listen, I got to be careful how I approach this. I'm not saying I get excited about spending more of my limited hard-earned cash on products. That's not all what I'm saying. Like, obviously, it'd be great if every video game was $5, right? Because then your money would go further and you wouldn't have to spend a bunch and you can enjoy more games and get better value, whatever, right? But I think games are already incredible value for what they are. And I think that when you look at the industry and the woes they're facing with how unstable the industry is, because the cost of development and what it costs to make games today and keep these teams running, and you put that against what the asking price is for your average game. I mean, games are just all in all a really, really affordable entertainment medium. And I truly believe this. I'm really going to be one of those people. I think about, like a Call of Duty game that you buy for $70 and then people put 1,200 hours into it over the course of a year, grinding, doing 10 prestiges, dozens of hours of zombies, and a little bit of campaign in there. It's like, listen, man, that's worth $70. You can just bitch and moan on Reddit all day long and say it's just a reskin of the last Call of Duty. There's nothing different about it. But listen, when you get 100, 200, 300, 400 hours of entertainment out of a game, and then get pissy about the price tag, it's like, dude, what do you want? What else can you do and get better, more time? And I don't like equating value to time, like the price and the fairness to the time, the amount of time you can extract from it. Like, to me, Avowed is a $70 game, and I think it's worth $70, even though I beat it in 15 hours. I don't care. But I just think about the quality of the enjoyment and the amount of time you can get out of a game and all that a video game has to offer and all that goes into making it. And I just think $80 for a game like Mario Kart, a game that people are going to play on and off for the next decade, is a really decent asking price. I mean, goddamn, dude, you can't even go to freaking like a casual family sit-down restaurant and have 2 to 4 people eat for less than like $100 anymore. Like, it's like, what do you want, dude? $80 is not an absurd ask for a game that's probably been in development for 5 to 10 years. So like, what is it? Like, what are you so pissy about? So I get it. Money, like things costing more money than they currently costed or previously costed, is not a fun thing to hear about, especially when everything else is getting rough out there financially. But games are an entertainment medium, and it's a luxury item, and it's not a necessity by any stretch of the imagination. And when you look at the hardship that the industry is facing with the rising cost of development and how hard it is to turn a profit these days and stay sustainable as a team and an entity, I got to be the one out there supporting the idea of, raising prices and charging based on, your confidence and your belief in what a video game can do in the market, because we got to find ways to make this stuff profitable. And no, we don't need to worry about Nintendo going under because Mario Kart costs $60 or $70 or $80, but it's a principle thing. Like, we got to care about this stuff on the whole. And to me, it's really important that video game publishers and developers feel empowered to say, hey, this is what we feel like this product is worth, and we stand behind our work. This is what we're asking for. It doesn't matter what Sonic's kart racing game costs. It doesn't matter what the new Laser Suit Larry game costs. What matters is Nintendo said it would be really beneficial for us if we could sell this thing at $80. So that's what we believe in the game to be valued at, and that's what we think we should sell it at. And this is really just kind of going back to a way things used to be priced kind of pre-Xbox PS2 era where there were games that were like $40 versus $80 versus $100 versus $90. Like, this was a thing, back in, like, especially like the NES, SNES, Genesis days. And so we're just kind of going back to basics in a way. And I don't know, just listen, man. I went to Panera Bread the other day for a sandwich and spent $16 goddamn dollars on like a Diet Pepsi and a sandwich. Like, listen, $80 for a Mario Kart game you're going to play for 50 hours by yourself, and then you're going to play like with friends every time they come over to your house for the next decade of your life. You just can't convince me that $80 is a ripoff for that. I just think that's a really decent value. But anyway, I digress. Overall, I think it's good that Nintendo's sticking to their guns and saying, listen, this device needs to be $450. We need to make a profit on it. Listen, these games are $70 to $80 depending on which game. We need to make money. We're in the business of making money, and I'm all for standing by it. If you think the price is high, then vote with your fucking wallet and don't buy it. But anyway, $450. I mean, that obviously prices the Switch 2 at $150 more than the Series S. A device that's comparable in power, and that's a great value proposition for Xbox when you think about it. But also, you can glean on it, like, what does that mean for the Xbox handheld? Because the Xbox handheld is probably going to be more expensive, or more expensive and more powerful than the Switch 2. So you can look at that $450 price tag and say, okay, that Xbox handheld's probably got to be at least $600, $700, $800, right? Between $600 and $800, I'm guessing. Because as Xbox becomes more and more boutique, and as the hardware becomes more or less and less relevant to their main generating revenue source, that handheld is going to be kind of a boutique item that has to be sold at a profit. So I wouldn't be surprised if Switch 2 being $450 is peanuts compared to whatever that Xbox handheld is going to cost. So another thing to just consider. Cronky wrote in and says, I hope Xbox took notes from the Nintendo Direct. This is how it's done. They show awesome games, build hype and cool innovative features, and all around set the exciting tone without lingering too much on anything boring. Yeah, I think Xbox does sometimes linger on a couple boring things, like when they do their Elder Scrolls Online updates and stuff, but generally speaking, I think we all agree Xbox does some of the better digital events out there in the industry. So I wouldn't harp on Xbox too much for this, but I agree. Nintendo put on a great show. It was a really outstanding event, and it got me super hyped. I mean, next week I'm gonna try to pre-order one of these things. Listen, I thought about it. Comes out June 5th. I'm gonna try to pre-order one. I'm gonna try to pre-order day one. I live 5 minutes down the road from a Best Buy. Best case scenario, I'm gonna pre-order one from the Best Buy down the road from me. And if I can do the midnight launch for this thing, I will. I miss that shit. I love midnight launches. I will gladly stand out until midnight to pick up a Switch on Thursday, June 4th. Right? Is that what it is? Wednesday, June 4th? Whatever it is. I'll take the following day off work. I don't give a shit. I think that'd be a great use of a vacation day to take a day off work and stay up until midnight, get your Nintendo Switch 2, and then spend the whole day playing with it. That would be a lot of fun. So if I can manage to, I doubt it. I feel very confident that I will not be among the first round of people to be able to pre-order a Nintendo Switch 2. That is my expectation, is that this thing is going to be a fucking nightmare to get your hands on. Because just people just, it's so funny. It's like prices keep going up. People keep bitching, but demand isn't going anywhere. People just keep buying shit anyway. And listen, I'm spent from this stuff. After years of being a theme park fan, I'm jaded. Living in the city of Florida, in the city of Orlando, and not in the city, but in the greater Orlando area, has fucking burnt my ability to give a shit about being first to anything. People here are so incredibly hardcore. We literally got people like lining up like it's Black Friday on a Saturday morning just to go to fucking Sam's Club here. It's insane. Like anytime fucking theme parks put out a t-shirt or whatever happens, like everyone's like, oh, I'm waiting to buy my tickets. I'm waiting to get the fucking popcorn bucket. I'm waiting to get the thing. I'm burnt out. I'm spent. If I can get a Nintendo Switch pre-order for day one, that'd be awesome. That'd be ideal. I'd be happy. If I miss out on round one, so fucking be it. There's always someone who's a bigger fan or who's more hype or who needs to get the, if I can generate content from I can upload a YouTube video, my Instagram followers, I can't. In this, like, I gotta be there too, me first culture, I just can't. I can't compete with you guys. So I'll try. I'll try to get a Nintendo Switch too. But here's the thing. If I don't get one round one, it's okay. I'll get one eventually. In the meantime, I'm playing that sweet, sweet Xbox, baby. You know what I'm saying, girl. All right, let's move on from Nintendo. I'm tired. What is it? Mario says I'm tired. Oh, shout out to Kirby Air Riders. What the fuck? The Smash Bros. Guy is making it, and I love the last time he deviated from Smash Bros. That Kid Icarus Uprising for 3DS was phenomenal, and I like Kirby Air Rider for GameCube. And also just shout out to the GameCube. I fucking love the GameCube. It's cool that they have a wireless GameCube controller coming to Switch too. Shout out to all that. I love all that. So anyway, let's turn back to the Xbox world of things, where Ubisoft and Tencent have made a quite important, drastic announcement that I really don't know what to make of, but let's get to it, because this is actually kind of like earth-shattering news for one of the biggest publishers in gaming. So from VGC, Ubisoft have announced that it's creating a subsidiary which will focus primarily on 3 main IP and will be partially owned by Tencent. The new subsidiary will be based on the Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy Rainbow Six brands, and will be backed by the greatest investment in boosted creative capabilities, according to Ubisoft, in an attempt to push each series forward. The subsidiary has been valued at €4 billion, and Tencent will be investing €1.16 billion to gain a minority stake of around 25% in the company. What exactly this means for fans of the series remains to be seen at this stage. But the investment by Tencent likely gives a degree of influence over the future directions of Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six. Oh, I love that Tencent has control over the future of Far Cry. It makes me so happy. Ubisoft says that a new subsidiary backed by Tencent's investment will, quote, drive further increase in quality and narrative solo experiences, expand multiplayer offerings with increased frequency of content releases, introduce free-to-play touchpoints, and integrate more social features. Quote, the new subsidiary would include the teams developing the Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry franchises based in Montreal, Quebec, Sherbrooke, Barcelona, Sofia, as well as the back catalog and the new games currently under development or to be developed, it added. Today, quote, Ubisoft is opening a new chapter in its history, says Yves Guillemot, CEO and co-founder of the company. As we accelerate the company's transformation, this is a foundational step in changing Ubisoft's operational model that will enable us to both be agile and ambitious. We're focused on building strong game ecosystems designed to become evergreen, growing high-performance brands and creating new IP powered by cutting-edge and emerging technologies. With the creation of the dedicated subsidiary that will spearhead development for the 3 largest franchises that are ongoing and the onboarding of Tencent as a minority investor, we are crystallizing the value of our assets, strengthening our balancing sheet, and creating the best conditions for these 3 franchises' long-term growth and success. With its dedicated and autonomous leadership team, it will focus on transforming 3 brands into a unique ecosystem. Alongside the creation of a new subsidiary, Ubisoft says that it will continue to work on other IP outside of these 3 that once it has moved over. Quote, in parallel to the creation of this new entity, Ubisoft will be focusing on nurturing and developing of iconic franchises including Ghost Recon, The Division, accelerating growth of top-performing titles, and leveraging disruptive technologies on selected new IPs, while continuing to deliver state-of-the-art production game engines and online services, it said in a statement. So, and then someone else in the company put out a letter to other Ubisoft employees being like, don't worry, your jobs are fine if you don't work on these 3 franchises. But this is obviously the beginning of, something new in the company, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know what to make of this because this is kind of crazy. So, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, and Rainbow Six are being moved into this new corporation, this new vertical of Ubisoft that's partially run by Tencent and controlled by Tencent. And then the rest of Ubisoft is just kind of in this existing flailing silo of debt and financial woes and all this. And we're just supposed to believe that these 2 things are separate, but everything's okay. And it's not that one is like a fucking lifeboat to swim away and get away from the sinking ship that is the rest of Ubisoft. We're just supposed to believe that everything's okay and we're separating all the money makers from the rest of the company's duds, and that the company will continue on strong. It just seems like this is a way to offload what's important and then fire sale the rest of Ubisoft, if I had to guess. But nothing's official because they haven't said shit really beyond just announcing this notion that this is what the future looks like for Ubisoft. I mean, this is huge, man. Ubisoft is one of the big gaming publishers. They've been around for so long, and this is the reality of their financial woes that they've been in for a while. And it's just kind of crazy to see them in a position like this. But it's very plausible that they could fire sale the IP that aren't included in this new corporation and then just kind of slowly start to fold old Ubisoft and have new Ubisoft just be this more nimble, focused, tight company that focuses on just like these 3 or 4 games and really nothing else. And that's hugely disappointing and unsatisfying to think about. But if I had to guess, that's kind of where this is the beginning of where we're headed ultimately. And I hate for that to be the case, but I just can't bring myself to think this means anything other than that. So I really look forward to hearing more on this, because right now I don't know what to make of it. But it sounds like the beginning of the end of the Ubisoft we've always known and sometimes loved. So that's really sad and weird. Guys, let's round out this week with some Xbox Wire updates regarding Game Pass. So some games coming to Game Pass that are available now. Borderlands 3 Ultimate Edition, All You Need Is Help, Still Wakes the Deep, and Wargroove 2 are now all included in Game Pass Standard. Borderlands 3 Ultimate Edition is also now in Game Pass Ultimate, so it's just coming to the service altogether. But coming soon, the following games will be on Game Pass. Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls Edition comes to Cloud Console and PC, as well as Game Pass Standard, South of Midnight comes to Cloud Console and PC. Day 1 Game Pass game, of course. And you can play it this week if you pay the $9 upgrade, which we already talked about. Commandos Origins comes to Game Pass Day 1 on April 9th. And also available Day 1 on Game Pass is Blue Prince, which comes out on April 10th. Finally, on April 15th, Hunt Showdown 1896 comes to Game Pass Ultimate for PC and Game Pass PC. You guys, that's really it. But oh, wait, one more thing. Leaving Game Pass on April 15th are the following games, so make sure you give them a try before they're all gone. We got Botany Manor, Coral Island, Harald Halibut, Homestead Arcana, Kona, Orcs Must Die 3, and Turbo Golf Racing. I don't even recognize one of those games, so clearly I'm missing something on Game Pass. But give them a go now, or else they'll all be gone forever on April 15th, and you'll have so much regret. You guys, that's it for all of our news this week. Let's wrap up with a couple quick, important enough news stories. Stories important enough to make the podcast, but not important enough to warrant their own individual discussions. Which we got 3 here. So IDOS Montreal is unfortunately laying off 75 of its staff, saying that's unable to move them to other projects. The Embracer-owned studio posted a statement on a LinkedIn page saying that it had to let the staff go because it was mandating, because of its mandates was ending. So yeah, let's bitch about games costing more money and then also be like, oh, why are all these game companies laying people off, right? Following up with that, Warner Bros. Has reportedly canceled a planned expansion and director's cut for Hogwarts Legacy as part of a video game restructuring, which is unfortunate. There's a Bloomberg report on that. And then finally, PlayStation's bringing its classic PSP rhythm games, Patapon and Patapon 2, to Nintendo Switch, PS5, and PC. The reason I bring this up is because even though these games are no longer really PlayStation, because this new version is being brought over and published by Bandai Namco, this is just a perfect example of an old PlayStation property that has really nothing to do with modern PlayStation and has nothing to really benefit modern PlayStation 4, migrating off of PlayStation, coming to Switch, and not even remotely coming anywhere near Xbox. So while Xbox continues to put all their games on PlayStation, just know this is what PlayStation thinks of sharing the love with Xbox. Just something I want to note. Anyway, guys, let's wrap up this podcast with the final, the best, the last segment of the podcast. There's really not a whole lot here, unfortunately. We don't have a lot of write-ins, but we'll go through. We'll make the most. The comments, the shouts, the questions, youtube.com/XboxOnPodcast. Click on the latest episode, drop a comment. Say anything nice, anything mean, anything in between. Just say something for God's sake and rate the show 5 stars while you're at it. But we got 2 write-ins this week, Sam Frito and Mr. Cronky Badonky. And Sam Frito starts us off and says, Jesse, Shadow Espresso is great, no lie. Of course, talking about Shadow singing Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso. But my kids turned heel like Cena, like John Cena, and The Rock, and mercilessly kicked my nuts, threw me out of the ring. Dazed, I walked back to my dressing room and I listened to it again. Made me feel better. You think people have taste? And then they proclaim AI will sink the 8-ball after the cue ball if we don't step in and teach it how not to fuck with Sabrina Carpenter. I don't know what that means, but Shadow is great. Don't apologize for bringing good into this world. Also, I wouldn't mind, since I know you're doing your Marvel Unlimited thing, hearing about a segment on lighter news weeks about what you've been reading. Just a thought. I've been reading through, the Secret Wars. I read through the original Secret Wars story a couple weeks ago, and now I'm reading through the newer Secret Wars story, the one from 2015. Is that when it's from? Yeah, the one that like kind of takes the Ultimate Universe and the main Marvel universe and kind of like ends it all and merges it all together. So I'm reading through that right now. Just to kind of give myself context, because I've never, I've always made fun of like the people who are like,
this movie isn't comic book accurate. Wolverine doesn't use his middle finger to flip off Cyclone. He actually,
like whatever. I'm not one of those people, but I've also realized it's like, I've never, I've always enjoyed Marvel. I've always liked Marvel stuff. I have a huge soft spot for Marvel. Spider-Man's like my favorite thing of all time. That's not Sonic or Lightning McQueen. And so I was like, you know what? It'd be cool to have a little bit of context for like the stories that inspire where the MCU is going for once. And so knowing that we're building up to Secret Wars, I thought I'd read that. Obviously, I know that the MCU is its own interpretation and its own story, and it takes inspiration from various arcs of various versions of Marvel Comics. So I'm not expecting the movies to be a retelling of these comics, but I am really enjoying reading them and just kind of getting that history and that perspective on the kinds of stories that have inspired various Marvel movies. And also, I just want to say as a side note, because I understand, like, and I don't blame, like, the general public, 99% of people who watch Marvel movies don't read Marvel comics, and that's totally fine. I've been that person for most of my life until, like, a month ago. But I just gotta say, having read the original 1980s version of Secret Wars, I just want to do a huge middle finger and walk it back, this whole narrative that, like, Marvel went woke with, like, oh, She-Hulk and Black Panther, oh, girls, it's so woke, because I'm reading the original Secret Wars, and I had no reason to know this, but did you guys know Wasp, like the fucking Ant-Man's sidekick, the Wasp, is like the leader of the Avengers in the original Secret Wars? And like Bruce Banner's being like a little bitch who's like, oh, I regret everything I ever did, and She-Hulk is like the prominent Hulk figure in that storyline. And, like, Spider-Man's like a fucking dweeb. Like, you read old Avengers shit, and anytime they have Spider-Man's a fucking idiot. He's just like, oh, I'm taking pictures for the Daily Bugle. And everyone's like, shut up, kid. We got work to do. And then, like, Reed Richards is using his big brain to do stuff. So I just gotta say, like, this weird narrative that, like, Marvel's woke or some shit, like, it's like, I thought we settled this like 20 years ago with X-Men, when X-Men became super mainstream through the live action films, and everyone, knew the thinly veiled, inspiration for X-Men is it's like a Martin Luther King Jr. versus Malcolm X kind of thing, where it's like, civil rights movement, a commentary on that, this whole mutants thing. But you would think that, but apparently people don't realize that Marvel comics have always just kind of been like social and political commentary. It's always like whatever the conversation of the time is, whatever the pressing social and political issues of the time are, the Marvel stories are kind of a reflection of that stuff. And so it's like, this is just kind of normal stuff. And not only that, but Marvel comics have always had men go through periods of time of being weak and stupid, and strong female characters and things like this. So it's like, it's just fucking weird how incredibly poisoned people's brains are by like just nonsense mainstream, just garbage, fake political narratives, and how it's like, it's bled into everything and just poisoned the well of everything. Cause it's like, dude, Marvel movies are just doing what Marvel stories have always done. They're just doing that. And people are like, The Marvels, a movie about 3 women. How woke. One of them's Middle Eastern. What is she, an Arab? We should deport her. It's like, I don't know what you're fucking talking about, brother. It's just a fucking Marvel story. Just yet another Marvel story. Watching the new Daredevil show. I don't know anything about this fucking White Tiger character. I never knew anything about him. I'm not a huge Daredevil fan. I don't know shit. They've had this Puerto Rican anti-hero character in Daredevil since the fucking 70s. That's representation, but people are like, no, Spider-Man's Puerto Rican. So woke. No, that's actually not true. I think Miles Morales is like the one thing that people don't make fun of, and it's because those Spider-Verse movies are so goddamn good. But anyway, So yeah, I've been reading Secret Wars. I read the Marvel Rivals comic series. A lot of those like easy to read, like just scrollable, just ultimate comics. I read like some Red Hulk thing. I like the idea of just like you watch the latest show on Disney Plus or the latest Marvel movie, and then you read about those characters and get like context. I like how the app does a lot of that, like capitalizing on what's going on in the MCU thing, where it's like, hey, the new season of Daredevil's out. How about you read all these greatest hit issues and story arcs about Daredevil? You know, here's this story arc that was really big in 2012, and here's the original run of Daredevil comics. And then it's like, oh, the new Captain America movie's out. Maybe you should read these Sam Wilson comics and then read these Red Hulk comics. And I like doing a lot of that. Lately, I've been doing a decent amount of that, just exposing myself to Marvel characters I really am not familiar with at all. But I'm enjoying the hell out of Marvel Unlimited. I think it's so great. I really want to get what I want to do next is I want to read the entire Ultimate Spider-Man run, because that's one of the few comics I actually did used to subscribe to back when I was a kid, and I've probably read 30, 40 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man. I probably started reading it pretty early in its lifespan. I would get the books. I subscribed to it for a while, and then I would get the books where it's like, 6 or 8 issues in a volume. But I would like to go back and reread and finish reading Ultimate Spider-Man from start to finish. So that's next on the docket, I think, for me. But anyway, that's a long-winded response. Sam Frito, thank you for asking. What are you reading on Marvel Unlimited, dude? What are you doing, Sam Frito, you sexy boy? Anyway, shout out to Marvel. I like Marvel. I don't care. That's the thing, is like I'm not all hipster trash. See, I like basic ass mainstream shit. I love Halo. I love Fast and Furious. I love Marvel. I'm not eclectic. I'm not hip. How dare you? Cronky writes in and says, all I want is the Oblivion remake. I couldn't care less about any other game right now. They really killed my interest with the rest of this year's lineup with this one. Oblivion was my, whoa, this is what a video game can be moment when I was a 9-year-old. It managed to kill my interest in Doom. Honestly impressive. Oh yeah, dude, when Cronky was a little kid, he loved Doom like crazy. This kid played Doom all the time. Like if he got near a computer, this kid was playing Doom or Warcraft 3 all the fucking time. And then when he got a Game Boy Advance, he got those shitty Doom ports on the Game Boy Advance, and he played those all the time. But yeah, I know people really want this Oblivion remake. I think the Oblivion remake is a great announcement for the Xbox showcase this June. Let's be patient. Let's be patient. There's so many Xbox games coming right now. We gotta hold back for a little bit, please, for the love of God. But Sam Frito responded to you and said, I understand with Oblivion, I think Bethesda rounded off some of the Morrowind rough edges for me to dig in several times, almost 20 years. Avowed reminds me a lot of these games, what they created fans for life. The details, the necessity to upgrade, the variety of weapons and builds. It's just the best steakhouse challenge for how much you can eat without needing JRPG sauce. God, I love it. Sam Frito, you have such a way with words. When the rumors of Oblivion remake finally come true, we will get that special serrated blade out and see what we can get our names on the wall. If we can get our names on the wall. Yeah, dude, I love the weapon so much in Avowed. Towards the end of the game, my loadout 2 was a 2-handed longsword. Loadout 1 was a 1-handed mace and the Harry Potter wand. Dude, that shit's so good. Yeah, man, I am also excited for this because I missed Oblivion. Oblivion's a game I have a lot of exposure to because Cronky and my older brother played the fuck out of this game back in the day, and I was always around it, but I never played it. So as someone who only recently in life came around to really admiring Skyrim, I would very much like to go back and play Oblivion. So I too am looking forward to this. But guys, we just had Avowed. We're just about to get South of Midnight and Doom and Expedition 33, and we just got Atomfall. And if you're on PlayStation, you just got every Xbox game ever, and we're about to get Nintendo Switch 2. Guys, let's be patient. We'll get Oblivion, I'm sure. They're just waiting for GTA 6 to have a release date. I don't know. But guys, that's really it for this week for the podcast. That's really all I got. Let me know what you guys think about Switch 2, about GTA, about Xbox stuff. Marvel Unlimited. What are you reading, guys? What comics are you reading? I gotta tell you, I'm really excited for the 1-2 punch this summer of Fantastic Four First Steps and then James Gunn's Superman movie. Hot take, I like some of the Superman movies. I really don't think there are, I know people really love the old Superman movies. I don't think there are any Superman movies that are truly great, in my opinion. I think Superman's never really had a great live action movie. I would be shocked if this James Gunn movie is anything less than great. I'm very excited for Superman to have what I perceive to be at least a good movie for once. So I liked Man of Steel all right. I thought that one was pretty decent. Not Man of Steel. Fuck no. What am I thinking of? No, what was the first Henry Cavill one? Was that Man of Steel? Yeah, it was. I'm thinking of Superman Returns in '06. That's the one that was like really boring. Yeah, Man of Steel was pretty good, but I think this will be like a genuinely good Superman movie. So I'm looking forward to that. Looks like we got a good summer of movies coming up. Anyway, guys, have a great week. Be good. Good luck getting your Switch pre-order. By the time we meet next week, pre-orders will have already happened. So hopefully, wish you the best. Make it work. Feel free to tweet at me or something if you manage to find a link that works. Maybe I can get one too. I don't know. Maybe we can be friends and use Nintendo chat together and talk about our feelings while we play Mario Kart World for $80 US. But until next week, be good. Empower your dreams.